A big steelworker welcome for Niki Ashton.
My name is Niki Ashton. I am proud to have been born and raised in Thompson, Manitoba, Canada. A union town, a steelworker town, a community that is the backbone of our country. And I have never been more proud than to be here to speak with you here today. Thank you. I am very proud of my steelworker roots. First, I want to give a shout out to the women of steel. Where are the sisters in the house? My grandmother was a woman of steel, a member of Local 7911 in our local school district. I also want to give a very big shout out to the steelworkers from mining communities. Can I hear a shout out for them? My father was a miner in our home community, and he actually went at the age of 25 from walking the picket line with Local 6166 to getting elected as a member of the Manitoba legislature, and he represents Thompson to this day. My hometown is in northern Manitoba, the part of the country that I am honored to represent in Parliament. Churchill, the name of the constituency, is also a community that is known as the polar bear capital of the world. Our winters are cold and long. In fact, where we are, we even have cold weather testing, from cars to jet engines. What we also have is some of the highest incomes in Manitoba and some of the highest incomes in Canada. No, we don't have millionaires, and sadly, there are many First Nations and Aboriginal communities nearby that live in third world conditions. But what we do have in Thompson are workers and a union, a real union, the Steelworkers, that fight for the fair share of the wealth of our resources. It wasn't always that way. A century ago, it was a very different picture. In communities across our country, workers worked very hard for very little pay, often in dangerous conditions. Many died. Pensions, workers' compensation, employment insurance, health care, holidays, the 40-hour work week were but a dream. But they did have a dream of a better world for themselves, for their families, for their communities, for all of us. They organized, they fought back, they got politically active, and year after year, they changed their workplaces, their communities, their countries. That's what happened in my home community. That is what the Steelworkers are all about. Brothers and sisters, we were all reminded of that fight with the recent passing of Brother Lynn Williams. He spent his life fighting for justice, and today we rededicate ourselves to his vision, the Steelworker vision of fairness for all. We know that today, everything we have achieved is under attack, from right-wing governments like the one we have in Canada, or from mounting corporate greed. My community has been on the front lines. Now, don't get me wrong, when the mine in Thompson was owned by Inco, they weren't angels. In fact, in the 1950s, Inco had hired ex-Nazis to beat up on union members. But just a few years ago, a Brazilian multinational called Vale bought Inco out, and things got worse. They announced the shutdown of our smelter and refinery. And we know that local 6,500 brothers and sisters in Sudbury, Port Colborne, and Voisey Bay were forced out on a 10-month-long strike by this very company. They fought back, we fought back. In our community, we created a video to tell our story, the story of what was being done to our hometown, our fight for our Canada. Michael Moore picked it up. It went viral. Our message got out there. What was and what is our message? We demand that we have the value-added economic benefits from our resources remain in our community. Today, there is renewed hope that our plant can stay open. But our experience with Vale is telling in another way. During the middle of our fight with Vale, the Canadian CEO, who is from Brazil, came up to visit the plant. And as he was walking in, he passed by the parking lot and pointed to all the trucks in the lot and asked, "Who do these belong to?" "The workers," he was told. He was shocked. "The peasants, you mean?" Some of our sisters and brothers who speak Portuguese picked it up. Doesn't this show what our fight is all about? When our workers receive their fair share, they buy goods like cars, they raise families, they contribute to their communities, they grow our economy. They used to say what's good for GM is good for the country. Well, I say what's good for workers is good for companies and good for the country. What is happening in our community is also being echoed throughout North America. There has been an unprecedented gutting of our value-added industries, and the result has been clear. As union membership declines, as collective bargaining rights are eroded, inequality goes up. And the steelworkers have been at the forefront of fighting for equality every step of the way. Steelworkers don't only fight for workers' rights and human rights in their workplace. They fight for all our rights in our communities and across our countries. If your community has a strong union like the Steelworkers, you can bet that everyone benefits. And I want to acknowledge the particularly hard work of the women of steel who have fought against sexual harassment and violence against women beyond the workplace, in our communities, and with the ultimate goal of ending violence against women and achieving equality. Two months ago, my hometown organized its first Pride celebrations. Thanks to the Steelworkers' support, our community was able to make history. We sent the message that LGBTQ rights are human rights, and that we fight for human rights in solidarity. Today, I want to talk about the politics of the future, a new politics where unions are key to building that future. So let's be clear. If you want fairness in the workplace, form a union. If you want workplace safety, form a union. If you want greater equality, form a union. If you want equality for women, form a union. And if you want to fight racism and achieve equality for LGBTQ communities, form a union. And if you're going to form a union, call up a real union like the Steelworkers to get the job done. have another message as well. Get involved politically. How many of you in this hall have volunteered or worked on an election campaign? Show of hands. I must be at a steelworker convention because steelworkers definitely get involved. Right on. But it's not enough to get involved. What's so good about the steelworkers, about your work, is that you know whose side you're on. In Canada, there is one party that is on the side of Labour, my party, the New Democratic Party. And no union is more strongly supportive of our party than the steelworkers. Not the talk, but the walk in campaign after campaign. Now, there are other politicians and parties out there, and they'll whisper sweet nothings in your ear. We've heard the lines before. They used to be a union member. They might show up to the Labor Day barbecue. They'll eat some of the hot dogs. And then, when they get elected and gain power, they attack workers and the labor movement every chance they get. But steelworkers know what matters in politics, and that is making a difference, building social and economic justice. The NDP in Canada is the party that has always fought for working people. It is the party that brought universal health care and much more to Canada. In fact, our standard of living in Canada has everything to do with the strong social programs that unions, along with the NDP, have fought for. A prime example is healthcare. Public, universal healthcare means that every Canadian has access to health, no matter who they work for, no matter what they look like, no matter where they live. This didn't just happen. It is the result of the perseverance that steelworkers and others showed in electing and supporting a political party that made universal health care a priority. I have another message as well. Increasingly, our fight is a global fight. More and more, we are dealing with companies that are shipping our jobs, our value added, overseas. Companies that exploit workers, destroy the environment, and devastate our economies. Steelworkers know this, and I want to acknowledge the incredible work of the Humanity Fund that has been key in working for human rights and justice around the world, because their fight is our fight. So it's time we started calling it for what it is. It's time we state clearly that this is our country. Everything we have today is the result of the hard work of generations of Canadians and Americans. Every social and economic advance we've seen, that we've lived, is the result of decades of struggle. And just like that, it can all be taken away if we're not forever vigilant. So as I stand here in Las Vegas, and I know what they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I think they mean the hospitality suites. I want to urge you to not leave your solidarity and your commitment as steelworkers on the convention floor. Let's leave here over the next few days with a clear message that this is our country. Let's be loud and clear, just the way steelworkers always are. We are going to fight in our workplaces. We are going to fight in our communities. We are going to fight in our countries and around the world for dignity, for fairness, for justice, for all of us. Thank you very much.